Well, when I started my business up, I didn't know anything about business at all, and it's the 16.5 years that I've been running this business. It's one thing I've really learned, that listening to customers is absolutely vital for your success.
Everyone in business will tell you that listening to customer feedback can make the difference between success and failure. But few have implemented it into business strategy with such demonstrable success as Scottish coach tour operator Rabbies Trailburners.
If somebody's suggesting something, we want to act on that straight away, because otherwise the moment's lost and somebody else will take that idea and run with it, because everything's out there, everything's open, and everything's now.
To get Rabbies Trailburners up and running, Robin Worsnop was loaned £6,000 by his brother in 1993 to buy his first coach. His vision was to run small, intimate tours, taking no more than 16 customers at a time off the beaten track to give them a taste of the real Scotland.
When I set up, I drove most of the roads in the country with a tent in the back and rough camped and worked out what roads were good to go down, what was down them, what was the possibilities for stops, where we could go for little walks, nature trails, what historic sites were of most interest to people. And that's kind of what I wanted to portray to people, get them to places that the bigger coaches couldn't really stop.
Over time, Rabbies grew in popularity to the extent it had to turn people away, probably onto the coaches of rival operators. To satisfy demand, Robin bought some 29-seater coaches. A larger passenger count for a little more fuel would mean greater profitability. Or would it?
The sales team at first, the reaction was brilliant. We've got more seats to sell, so this is fantastic. But it was strange because the team actually found it quite difficult, because the very product we were selling, which was the small group, the personal experience, was suddenly gone, and they found it actually harder.
Over the 2 years we operated these larger coaches, we tracked our customer feedback, and it started to decline, and customers weren't as happy and weren't as engaged and weren't going away feeling as if they'd had as good an experience and weren't raving about us in the same way as they were before. During the time when we ran the bigger coaches, actually our profitability dropped about 20%. We were aiming for the equivalent increase.
Rabbies reverted to 16-seater coaches and hasn't looked back since. Customer satisfaction has grown again, to the extent that last year the company turned over £2.5 million. It's safe to say Robin's been able to repay his brother's loan. A more direct response from a customer was the spur to one of Rabbies' most successful innovations. Running tours for longer than 5 or 6 days is very difficult because of the driving hour regulations. It was a customer that suggested that Rabbies' 5-day tours intersect at various points, so customers can hop off one tour and join another, thereby fixing their own schedules.
Next summer we've actually got 16-day island hopping extravaganza tours, which is a combination of 4 different departures. And we've got 13-day tours, we've got 9-day tours, 8-day tours, all on the back of this one particular idea that came in from a customer. And I really want to thank that customer for pointing out something which was pretty obvious, but we hadn't seen it ourselves.
Delivering the experience that the customer wants, rather than what is simply the most economic from Rabbies' perspective, has led to the company winning a number of Scottish Thistle Awards, including the coveted one for sustainable tourism. In the Highlands and Islands, it lets its customers choose their own accommodation, rather than booking everyone into a hotel in which it has a vested interest.
I think this is vital for fragile rural communities, that the money is going into the pocket of the operators of these businesses, because if they weren't there and we weren't able to help sustain their economies, that they wouldn't exist, and then we wouldn't have an infrastructure in the future to take more visitors to visit them.
A key part of the Rabbies experience is delivered by the driver guides. When they come for interview, Rabbies is looking not so much for an experienced coach driver, but for a frustrated historian.
Robin Bruce, King of Scots.
Well, I think all our driver guides have their own personalities. I think personality plays a huge part in being able to do the job well. But I think probably a passion for the country, which is very easy to find, or for me it's extremely easy.
Rabbies gives the drivers an allowance that they can spend furthering their knowledge of certain areas. And before a driver gets behind the wheel, they shadow other more experienced drivers. So when they take a tour of their own, they're 100% ready. Rabbies Trailburners doesn't need to be told about the correlation between customer focus and profitability. It's found out for itself. Allowing customers to shape business strategy is what keeps Rabbies competition firmly in the rear-view mirror.